Is the Pampered Chef Pop and Stir the perfect popcorn and candied pecan producer? What's up, guys? Welcome to the Cuba Kitchen Journey, and today we are looking at the Pampered Chef Pop and Stir. Now, I gotta be honest, when this came out, I wasn't overly excited about it. We don't do a lot of family movie nights where we're having popcorn. We don't make candy nuts. In fact, I've never made candy nuts, and so it was kind of one of those, oh, this is the electric, oh, nice, that's cute and pretty and whatever, and then I just kind of put it in the back of my mind. And then I had a friend, as soon as this launched, that called and was like, hey, I need that, and I need that now. And we're like, okay. And so we sent it to her and we're like, all right. And then we asked her how she liked it. She said, oh, it's amazing. She made candy nuts for a fundraiser for her kid. And I was like, all right, so maybe people are interested in this. And then my mom was like, hey, does that thing really work? Because it takes me hours to make candy nuts and I got to keep flipping them. And how long does it take? And I said, okay. And so I really started diving in and said, is this thing as good as what it's cracked up to be? And so that's what we're going to look at today. So this is the unit as a whole. Now, when you store it, it actually fits inside. So your lid will turn upside down and it fits in there like that. So it doesn't take up as much space as you might think when you're storing it. And then the cord comes right underneath there. So I want to go ahead and look over some of the product details. Of course, there is the lid, which is this part. And this guy right here has a lock position. And then it goes on and then it snaps back on. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Some thoughts on that. And then there is your base. Of course, the cord, you can unwind and plug that in there. You've got two settings on the knobs. There is a nut setting and there is a popcorn setting. Honestly, I don't know what the difference is. It's just when I'm making nuts, I do it on nuts. When I'm making popcorn, I do it on not popcorn. Maybe there's a difference in temperature. I'm not sure. And then the unit itself, there is this, the hot plate right here, which is a non-stick material. And then the knob, which comes off. There is the stir bar. And then the plate itself, which comes off. And then underneath is the heating element. So there's a light bulb in there that heats it. And then the tray itself. And then this little guy is the magnetic drive. So this turns the motor right. Actually, I don't know if it's magnetic. It's motor, it might be. And then this guy sits on there. So to assemble it, you put that on there. You put that on there. And you put your bar on there, and you put your knob on. Now, the plate itself is dishwasher safe. The lid and the cap is dishwasher safe. The bar is not, and my suspicion is because it can, fall in there and it might get bent up. I don't think it's a material issue. I just think it's if it gets warped, it won't work the way that it's supposed to. So the knob, the bar, and the little knob in there don't go in the dishwasher. Other than that, everything else can. If you're cleaning up around the edges, you'll get some grease in this area right here, and you just wipe that down with a towel. And then if anything happens to get underneath there, obviously the base can't go in the dishwasher either. This guy retails for $99, and it has a 2-year warranty. It is made in China, so if that's an issue, then obviously this will not be the device for you. So now we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what it makes. So as a whole, this thing is ridiculously easy to use. It literally is just a matter of putting your post in, putting this guy on top, and I say that, and as I'm having difficulty, I don't normally do this with one hand, putting your bar on, and there is, you won't really be able to see it, but this can only go on one way, and you just have to make sure that it's facing down and not up, otherwise the nuts will just, or the popcorn will just go under it, and then you screw it on, and that's all there is in terms of putting this guy together. If you want to make popcorn, there is a popcorn recipe on Pampered Chef's website. It calls for half a cup of oil, or half a cup of popcorn and 2 tablespoons of oil. Now, I have made more than a half a cup in this before. I don't know if that's, not suggested or anything. I didn't find anything in there that says don't do that, but it made a cup of it perfectly fine. Half a cup really isn't great for us. Now, as it comes to the oil, most oils are perfectly fine. You can use your peanut oil, you can use your vegetable oil, which is the cheaper version. You can use olive oil. Don't use the extra virgin olive oil. And the reason for that is the lower smoke point of some of those oils will just cause your popcorn to burn or taste burnt, or it'll get really smoky, and that's not ideal. And so you don't want that. And so yeah, you put the popcorn in, You put the oil in, and then you just put the lid on and turn it on, and that's all there is to it. Now, we like to do ours with butter, and so you would just chop up a few tablespoons of butter, and this is really cool. You put it on the top, and then the steam from the popcorn itself, from the production process of it, will actually melt that butter down. Now, I used butter that was at room temperature. It does say in the directions that if not all the butter melts, then you just take your silicone basting brush and rub it, and then you can, then it'll melt down on there, or as you toss it in the bowl, it'll melt there. And then once your popcorn is done, you can add, your flavorings to it. Now, we use just salt, but of course, Pampered Chef does have some flavors. They have the popcorn seasoning itself. They have the French toast seasoning. Some good stuff for that. Heck, if you want to put some crunchy cinnamon on there, you're welcome to do that, or savory maple. Whatever makes you happy. We just like kosher salt. That's the only thing we do. So when we're done, put the kosher salt on. And so, and that's all there is to it. And what's really cool is that once you have the popcorn made, if you just grab on right here, you can actually flip the whole thing over. So you just pick up the base plate like that, and then you flip it over, and bam, you're good to go. And then your hot plate, which will be hot, so don't touch the metal part, erpy derp. You can just put that back on your device there. So you notice that I talked about this thing earlier before, and it's, it just locks on there. It's got a little twist lock situation, and you line it up, and then you twist it, and you lock it. Pampered Chef, you can do better. You can do better. We've made popcorn with this, a few times, maybe 3 or 4 times. And the times that I just give it to the kids, 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, and set them on the floor, every time we've done that, somehow this thing has managed to come off. And this hole where you put the butter, and that's where the steam escapes, that's all great and happy and wonderful. But once this comes off, every little crumb just falls through it, and we've had to clean up the floor. So I don't know if it's because mine's defective and it doesn't lock as well as it's supposed to, but it doesn't work very well, and so I would love to see an improvement on that. Now, if you're, have adults in there and you're just sitting on the couch and holding it like this, you're not going to have any problem with it. Honestly, the popcorn isn't the biggest deal to me. That's not why I would have bought this. We don't do family movie nights a lot. We just would make the microwave popcorn, which is less healthy, admittedly. But to take up the cabinet space for us would not have been worth it. No, what makes this one interesting for me is not really the popcorn setting. It's all about the nuts. The nuts is where I think you're probably going to get the most value. And again, this is something that I didn't really know about going into this. I'd never candied nuts before. I'd never done it in the oven. I've never done it in a pan. I'd never done any of that. And I didn't know how long it actually took to do. So I've never done it the old-fashioned way, but based on the people who have made nuts in the past, this is a godsend. For those that make it in a pan, obviously you can take it with you. In fact, we went outside a couple weeks ago during a street fair and set up in front of my friend's house, and we were just making nuts the whole time when we were selling them, and it was great because we could make it right there and then. We didn't need an oven. It took a little longer because we were outside, but it only took about 15 minutes to make the nuts, and that was great. And I can say this, today I've probably made, probably 50 to 70 batches of nuts with this, of candy nuts, so I've learned a couple things. Our family is going to be going to Jordan here next May, and so we've been selling candy nuts to help raise funds with that. So I have made a lot of nuts, and I want to give some observations. As you're seeing the video of this being made, you can see the process is really, really simple, regardless of what route you're going. It's a cup of nuts, a quarter cup of sugar, a couple tablespoons of whatever seasoning you want to add, and then a tablespoon and a half of water. And then you just let it work its magic. If you're adding seasoning, most of them you just do it right out of the gate. You can put your savory maple seasoning, you can put your French toast seasoning, you can put your cinnamon, whatever you want to put in there, and then you just let it go for 9 to 12 minutes. And then you turn it over onto parchment paper or a cooling rack, and then you can get on to your next one. If you are making multiple batches of this, like one after another, You're going to want to either let it rest for about 10 minutes or just rinse it off, which is what we did. In fact, we were making such a variety and wanting to keep up on our variety of nuts that we were rinsing it every 1 or 2 batches. I'd make a couple batches of savory maple. I'd rinse it off, let that pan cool down, and start over with the next one. And we haven't had any issues, and I would go, we were going an hour, 2 hours at a time, just making nuts nonstop with no issues, no problem there. You might have noticed in the videos that we're using 3/4 of a cup instead of a full cup, and that's because we bought 8-ounce containers that we're selling them in, and a full cup doesn't fit in there once they're candied, and so we went with 3/4 of a cup, and it helps our margins a little bit, but that's not why. It's because we bought the containers and realized a full cup wouldn't fit in. I still use about 3/4 of a cup of sugar. I would back off a little bit, and then go ahead and make that all nice and pretty that way. Pampered Chef doesn't have a recipe for cocoa. That's one of the ones that we sell that's really popular, is a cocoa. And I think the reason they don't is because all of their recipes just call for adding that ingredient immediately. You dump in your sugar, you dump in your French toast, you dump in, your water, whatever you want all at the beginning. With cocoa, if you do that, it's going to burn and it's going to get kind of gummy and gooey, which is not ideal. So with the cocoa, I'll add that in once the water has basically started to evaporate, is gone, and the nuts start to actually get a film, a candy on them. Then I'll put the cocoa in, and it'll make a much more powdery, but still candied nut, which is really good the way that I like it. Also beware of cashews. Cashews take a lot longer to do. Anna had seen on the consultant Facebook pages, whatever, I'm not on those, that people were complaining about cashews. They were having a hard time with cashews. Cashews have a higher water content, and so Pampered Chef would recommend that you use pre-roasted cashews because that water will come out of it. In my experience, it just takes longer. Like, I'll add a little bit extra water, and then I'll just let it go for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And I'll get the same quality with the cashews that I get with the other nuts. Also, don't use brown sugar. Brown sugar is not great for this. You want to use granulated sugar. And if you do all of that, you're going to come out with some pretty amazing nuts. And again, 10 to 12 minutes and you are beautiful. And at the end of the day, what you got is you're making relatively small batches of nuts, which is great. Because you might not want to go through all the work on the pan and make a ton of nuts if it's just you and your spouse, or if you're on a diet and you don't want to be eating a bunch of candy nuts, you just want a little bit of candy nuts. This is fantastic for you. You can also find flavors that you might not be able to find at the mall, at the nut store. We have savory maple, or if you want to make a sweet and spicy one, those aren't the most popular in the mall, and so they're harder to find, and you can make whatever you want. And so there's great variety available. So now the question is, is this worth it? This is such a hard question to ask because it's niche. It's whatever you want it to be. I'm the last person in the world that's going to go out and spend $100 on something that's going to take up this much space in my cupboard and only use it occasionally. But we are using it a lot. In fact, I'm going to make a batch of this right as soon as I'm done with this video. I have a batch to make for a customer. But for me to spend $100 on something that I'm not going to use that much is not really my cup of tea. And honestly, even after all the use that I've got out of it, I don't know that I would spend $100 on it. That said, the people who have told me they absolutely love it have said that it is a godsend and it is worth every penny of $100. They are absolutely loving it. And for them, for those that want to make candied nuts regularly, for those that really want to have popcorn that doesn't have chemical, it does taste better than the air pop popcorn. It just does. I mean, that's my opinion, but having real oil in there, having the butter add as it goes instead of trying to add real butter later. If you've ever added melted butter to popcorn, it just kind of absorbs it and turns into goo. For that, it is fantastic. And if that's something that you're after, then yeah, it's totally worth it. So is it worth it? That's really up to you. It does what it says. It does what it says well. It saves time. It can save money if you are constantly buying candied nuts. It can save you money in that department. And all of that comes in at under $100. And that's before like getting a discount on it. I mean, host a party, get it 60% off, wait for a sale, you know, any of that razzmatazz. And then, you know, it definitely comes more into line with being, you know, worth it. And so if you are interested in this product, if you're interested in getting it at a discount, make sure you reach out to your consultant. If you don't have one, you can check out my wife's contact in the link below and reach out to her, and she'd be happy to give you some information on how maybe you can host a party or maybe order one, or how to get one of these on a discount. And if you are just the type of person that wants to see a full cycle of this going 15 minutes making a candy nut, hey, make sure you check out the video right over here, and you can get a good look at what this looks like. If you want to, you know, burn 15 minutes or something like that, you can certainly check that out. Hey, I hope you guys like this kind of content. If you enjoy it, make sure you like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below about what your favorite candied nut is, and we will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.